Go for it, Kim.
You made it. We're so proud of you. It's the last video. You should celebrate. We're so thankful for you and hanging on here. And I think this is going to be the video that many of you have been wanting to have, because you like, hey, you're keeping us in the clouds here, but we need some more meat. And so I think this is going to help that. So one of our favorite things is our little Joe chart. And
yeah,
so,
Joe.
Yay, Joe. As we talk about the different competencies that we need at each level, as we walk up from team member to leader to coach to department leader to organizational leader, I think that Joe chart would help us out. So Zach, do you have the Joe chart?
I got Joe. I feel like you should have made him a flannel graph here, Kim. That might have been more appropriate.
If I were a good children's ministry director, I would have.
So let's go back. So Joe's down here, and so hopefully this is going to wrap up like all our conversations, and not that it's going to put a bow on it, but hopefully it'll make it bring some clarity here. So we've talked about this leadership pipeline. So here we have Joe, and we've talked about structure. Kim, walk us through just again the different levels of leadership here, so we understand those again.
So Joe can start out as a team member, and then he can move up to be a leader, and then he can be a coach.
Define those words a little bit. Like,
oh, I can do that. Okay,
yeah.
So a team member is anyone, so first of all, we have an attender. That's a pure consumer. That's someone who just comes to church on like Sunday morning, right? And we want to move everyone out of that spot into a team member spot, which is where they become a contributor. So a team member is someone who serves on a ministry team or who participates in a group. That's a team member. Then the next level up is a leader, and a leader is someone who leads a small team of people in a specific ministry area, okay? Then above the leader, we have that coach, and a coach leads a small team of leaders to provide, equip, encourage, and evaluate. Then above the coach, you have a department leader. This can be a volunteer or a staff member, and they provide visionary leadership over a specific ministry with oversight over coaches. And then above the department leader, we have organizational leader, and they provide visionary leadership and shapes the culture of the overall church.
All right, so that's helpful. So here we are. So here, back to Joe. So here we are. So that's our structure. That's what we're talking about. That's where Joe knows his next step. If we're talking about broad terms here. If Joe just shows up on Sunday morning and Joe's like, oh, like I want to jump to here. Well, maybe he can, but we want to make sure Joe, maybe he really needs, his next step is really to start here being a team member. And so we want to help Joe and help him know what his next step is based upon his skills, his experiences, what that might be. So let's say Joe says, okay, I want to jump on, like I'm willing to get involved and serve. And so our system, go back to our video 2, I think it was, is to create a system of video 3. Video 3 was really to create a system of onboarding well, kind of that prepare, equip, inspire. And so this system is really creating that prepare part of creating an onboarding process that everyone walks through the same way. And and I think you guys have all already kind of given a person in from your department to say, hey, that they're going to help us focus in this area, and we're going to figure this out so we do this really well. And so that team is working on that and getting this figured out. So Joe, his process of becoming a team member for the greeting team, here is this. And so Joe's now on here. Ignore the 5, that was an accident, but that's okay. But there might be skills you might want Joe to have to be a good greeter. So
but those would be skills that you would just give in kind of in the onboarding process. As you sit down and have coffee with them, this is what it means to be a team member.
Yep.
You're not having to create like modules or competencies for that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Joe wants to be a team member. And so maybe after 3 months, 4 months, we're like, wow, Joe, like, we need a leader in our greeting ministry. Like, would you be interested in doing that? Now, in the past, and this is my own confession, like I'd be like, awesome, Joe, you're good at this. Now go do this. And here's my 4-chair discipleship book, and go have fun. Like I'm joking, but there's all surprising truths in there that are probably more true. But what we're trying to do is this: say, hey, now we know Joe's a team member. His next spot is to be a leader. And instead of just magically making this happen for Joe, we're creating a process. We're going back to our system. There's an onboarding process for Joe to become a team member to a leader. And that goes back to these 5 competencies. And so there's like a video, that onboarding process, we'll figure that out. But also part of that onboard is saying, what are those 5 competencies that Joe needs to know to be a leader for the greeting team?
And those are specific to that ministry. Those are those 5 competencies that we talked about that you're going to create. And we want them each to have like that knowledge piece, that experience piece, and that coaching piece. So you're going to walk him through those 5 competencies, and that's his onboarding to becoming a leader in the ministry. And those are ministry specific.
Yes. So just think, like, so if Joe's been on our greeting team for a while and I see potential in Joe, instead of saying, hey, Joe, next week, can you start leading this team? Just to walk through that, a better onboarding process. And hey, maybe over the next month, can I meet with Joe one-on-one? Or could my coach, you know, whatever, as we grow this, could I coach sit down and meet with Joe 5 times over the next month and walk through those 5 training or those 5 competencies with Joe? So they get the knowledge, they get the coaching, they get the experiences. So when Joe steps actually into this leader role as a greeter, like he's ready to go. He's set up to be successful. And we're not just hoping just because he's a good team member, he's going to be a good leader here.
Right. Can I say something there?
Yeah.
As you hear that, you're going to have them do 5 modules in 1 month. Your modules are not going to look like mine and Zach's modules, okay? These are kind of beasts because we're having to bring you onto this whole system.
Yeah.
So your modules may just be a podcast and answer these questions or reflect on this or read this article and reflect on this or read these chapters of this book. They're going to be a whole lot less. They're not going to be 5 video modules, okay?
We'll talk through the modules another time, but just going to give you the heartbeat of what's going on.
Right. So, but it'll be much more simple, but that's what you'll walk them through.
So Joe is a team member, goes through this onboarding process, walks through 5 competencies that he needs to be a leader in that ministry.
Right.
Like that feels doable. That feels like we're setting Joe up for success to empower and equip him to do those things. And then we put him with a team of people who can actually support him and cheerlead him along the way.
Right.
Joe's a leader for a year in our greeting ministry. And we're like, man, Joe, you're killing it here. Like, hey, Joe, would you ever be interested in actually stepping up and being a coach? Mm-hmm. Like, could you help oversee maybe we have 5 leaders here in the greeting team. Could you help oversee all the greeters, those leaders? And again, Joe, here's an onboarding process we have to help you get here. And here's 5 different competencies that are different than being a leader because it's a different skill set that you have being here. And so Joe becomes a coach. And he sits down, he oversees all these leaders that are now in the greeting team. Mm-hmm. And Joe, he loves, he cares, he supports, he encourages them, he helps them grow as a leader. And we're like, man, Joe, you're still killing this thing. Would you want a 15, 20-hour job as overseeing our whole first impressions team? And like, could you become a department lead where now you have, between 5 and 10 coaches you report to? Mm-hmm. And now again, like there's an onboarding process for Joe, an application, all that stuff that onboarding team will figure it out. But Joe, here's 5 skills we think you need to have to become a department lead, to lead coaches and leaders up below you. Mm-hmm. And Joe does that. And we're like, man, Joe, like you're killing this still too. Like you want to, and Greg and John say, hey, like let's get rid of Zach on ELT. Let's replace Zach with Joe. And so Joe now becomes an organizational leader. And so there's an onboarding process with 5 key competencies to help Joe do that. Because what Joe does here is very different than what Joe does down here. And we want to train and we want to develop those skills for people. Mm-hmm. That's a whole lot right there. But that kind of gives you the kind of a picture, I think, of what Kim and I are talking about. Mm-hmm. We'll make this a little simpler, I think, even as we go too. So at this level, the leader level, this is where Kim's talking about, like helping you develop those 5 ministry specific skills are going to be really helpful for you. Mm-hmm. Kim and I are going to make this a lot easier on you as well. This process.
You're going to love us when you hear this.
Yes. The process of going from a leader to a coach and up. Like Kim and I have already done the work for you guys. And we might fine tune or tweak, and you can see those in here. But this is what Kim and I, and we've worked with Greg and John on this process a little bit. And so when we say coach, here are the 5 competencies we want a coach to have. When we say department lead, here are the 5 competencies we want a department leader to have. When we say an organizational leader, here are the 5 competencies we want an organizational leader to have. So we're like, all that stuff is going to be written out and done for us already. And so all we're asking you to do is to really focus in on this, because I don't know your area as well. I don't know Kim's area. I don't know Texas area. I don't know Greg's area. I don't know John's area. I don't know Ryan's area as well as you guys do. And you know what's needed in that spot. And we want to put your teams in places to be successful and create opportunities for them to be empowered and to be equipped to do their job. So when it comes to here, this is what we're asking to kind of help you understand what are your skills, what are your competencies that your leader needs to be at this spot. Kim, what do you want to add into the conversation?
Yeah, I hope that this helps you guys apply that meat to the bones. I mean, we've gone through the organs, the veins, the bones, now the skin, to put it all together. And I hope that that makes it feel a little bit easier to know that this is the piece of the puzzle that we're asking you to own. We're going to provide all the support and care that we can to help you be successful here. Remember, just bring one to the debrief that you're going to have after this, one skill or competency that we'll discuss. And then you will get together as a team to flesh out those other 5. But then when you move up, it becomes less ministry specific, because a coach over leaders in your ministry would have already probably served as a leader or been very familiar. So they're going to have that information. So the generic idea of coach and department leader, Zach and I are able to provide those because they're a little bit more generic and not as ministry specific, because those people would have those skill sets already in your ministry. So I'm really excited to get us going on this, and I'm really excited to see what God is going to do here. And I know some of you are like, whoa, this is so much, so fast. And some of you are like, get out of my way so I can start doing this. So we appreciate that you've gone with us at the pace that we've provided here. And I know that we still have a few more months before we're really ready to implement a lot here. And so, but we just appreciate your engagement. And just, I think this is going to go really well for us. And so we're excited to see what competencies for your ministry that you're going to bring to the debrief.
Yeah, and so I'll come back to some of the conversations I've had with some of our staff. Like when you are asked to be at this level, a department leader or a coach, that's really scary, because what you know is being a doer as a leader. As a leader, you are a doer in a lot of ways. And so we'll have to figure it out. But, and when we've talked through these things, like we want to provide you these opportunities, like how do you grow, become a leader to a coach? Like you have to learn those things for yourself before you can turn around and do those for other people. And so we'll need to figure that out and how we do that well. There's still lots of questions and totally regulate, but to even know for yourself, like if this is where you are, we want to give you the tools. I'm going to walk you through step by step, how for you personally, how to get from this level to the next level. And some of you are totally there and are totally functioning those things. And some of us, there's things I just still do. I function as a team member sometimes. Like, oh, what am I doing? Like, no, I fully recognize that. We want to help along the way, even just for your own personal development, to move from wherever you are to this next level. And we'll help you grow in that, even though on your ratio document, you might be functioning in a role. You're like, I don't know what that feels like. We'll help you. We're going to help you grow so you can turn around and help other people grow. And so, yeah.
And remember, this is not a program for perfection. We have created a system to help us be people focused. So we're not looking for perfection. We're not looking for polish.
Yeah.
We're looking for development is what we're hoping for. And that's a messy, sticky thing. And that's okay. And so, but when we have a system, it allows it to not be so messy or sticky, so that we can stay focused on people and care and develop them.
Yeah. Last thing I'll just say, probably the last thing I'll just say, is how this connects. So I'm going to draw a few more conclusions here for us. So last month, you got to work on your ratio document and you got to work on your focus document. And so there's lots of questions. Like, okay, I have my ratio document and it says next step. Like, I don't know what the heck to do with them. Like, do I take my my 4-chair discipleship book and read that with them? Like, what do I do? like I don't know. Like there's a lot. Like, how do I develop people? Like, that's been a question basically what I've been asked. And not that I have any answers or we're figuring this out alone, but now to say, hey, like if you look at your focus document, your next step is say, once we're fully functional, I totally get we're not there today. But to say, my next step is to say, hey, I'm going to take Randy, a guy on my team who's a team member. And if I have my leader modules done for local outreach, now I can take Randy through, hey, his next step is a walkthrough training module number 1. Like, can I invite him into leadership? He's serving on my team. He's a team member. Can I invite him to take leader training module number 1 to start becoming a leader on my team? And so when you could connect this prepare part and this equipping part into those documents, it makes it a whole lot simpler rather than going like, I don't know what the heck to do. I'll pray for them and I'll ask them, and hopefully they just show up and do the right thing. But when we could connect that to our focus document and say, okay, my next step is to walk this person through this next training module. Hey, my next step is to come back and host this equipping a huddle for other coaches along with this person. Like, when we connect these things to the systems that we're creating, it's gonna take that pressure away. And a lot of you have felt like, I don't have time to do like a Bible study with every person. I don't have time to have lunch with this person. Like, you're right, you probably don't. But to say, I have time to sit down with him or her in the next month to do this next training module, to invite them into leadership, to invite them to be a coach, to invite them in to be a leader. Like, that takes that pressure away, hopefully in some ways, to feel like I don't have time for all this.
When even having a group of people, if you're onboarding a couple of new leaders at a time, let them go through that and then meet together with them. It doesn't always have to be one-on-one.
Yeah. And so hopefully I just want to connect that. And so even as you look at your ratio document and your focus document, to say, okay, like, again, I know we're not fully functioning, but look at, I imagine most of us, we have lots of leaders and very few coaches. And so maybe for us, as we work towards this, to say, okay, who are 5 people that I could maybe invite into being a coach? And their next step is, 1, to have a conversation with them about it. Not today, but we'll get there. And then maybe secondly, to say, can I invite them to do the coach's training module number 1, to walk through that first competency. Like, that feels doable and practical and helpful, rather than going like, I have to meet with them every week and check in and pray. Like, no. I know a lot of you have felt that, and that's okay. But we want to help create, okay, here's what their next steps are in inviting the leadership. Imagine if we had a really good onboarding process from a leader to a coach, and we had these 5 training modules, and starting in January, I'll just say, if all of us said, hey, 5 people on my list, I'm going to sit down and walk through these training modules to help them to become a coach. Like, we could actually in 6 months go from having 2 coaches to like 30 or 40 coaches in the life of our organization. Because now we have a system that's reproducible, that hopefully feels more transformational, because it's not just knowledge, it's knowledge, experience, and coaching. And now they have the ministry skills to actually sit down and actually do that job. Without having to create more programs and more stuff. It might be having to have 5 conversations over a 6-month period of time. That is leadership pipeline. That is leadership development at its best. And I know there's lots of things that are going on, and it's craziness. There's a lot of things we'll have to figure out. But that's what it is. It's inviting people into leadership, giving them some knowledge, some training, some experience, and some coaching, and releasing them for ministry at different levels of different levels of leadership. And so that's the heart. That's what we're trying to build, is something that's producible for us across the organization and doable for us across the organization. So there's a lot more into that, but that's the heart. Any last thoughts from you, Kim?
No, I think that's great. I hope that this excites you all and gives you those pieces to feel like, okay, this is a practical system that we can apply. I'm really excited about it. And please, Zach and I keep saying it, please know that we're here for you. We want to help you. We want to support you in that.
Yeah. So wrap up. So schedule your debrief with us. By your debrief, you need to have 1 competency done for pick a team you have on your team. And it doesn't, because you write it now doesn't mean you're stuck with it forever, but just to start. And what we're going to say by January, to try to have your 5 competencies for an area of leadership, of leaders in the area of your ministry. So mine might be my small group leaders or connection group leaders. It might be my greeting team or my next step leaders. Like, whatever it is, like for you, it might be Sunday morning small group leader, the large group, whatever it is, like pick an area of ministry and have 5 competencies done by January, and back to Kim and I. And so try and give you lots of time. And if you need help, like, again, like Kim said, like, let us help you. We want to help. Let us in to help you figure that out. So there you go. Thanks for this one. And yeah, thanks, Kim, for all your help and insight and wisdom here. So appreciate you on this journey.
Thank you, Zach.
So enjoy.